Hello all, it's week 9. Our focus this week is on breaking barriers to creativity. I'm going to do two things in this short video. First, I'm going to talk a bit about barriers to creativity and how to address them. And second, provide an overview of the week's readings, CAS, and Sparks. There are tons of readings and materials out there in the world that suggest barriers to creativity. And most of us face barriers of one type or another in our lives, our academic lives, our personal lives, our professional lives. Here, I want to present a set of 8 barriers for us to think through. Barrier 1, not having a process or approach. Week 8 was all about creative approaches and processes. You can't just force yourself or others to think creatively. It's best to have a set of flexible thinking tools you can apply in different situations to spark creative ideas. Just a couple of the examples we discussed during week 8 included card storming, design thinking, and starbursting. Barrier 2, struggling with the fear of failure. This is one we've talked about a good deal in class, and it's a key to entrepreneurial thinking. It's hard to be creative if you're afraid of failure. If you're afraid your idea might not work, or if people might not take you seriously, you'll likely stifle your creative possibilities. If you engage the world feeling you might fail, you will likely keep yourself from taking risks that might have big payoffs, or at worst, from learning from your mistakes, which isn't a bad thing at all. Some of you might follow Tyler Oakley on YouTube. He has 8 million subscribers. When one of my videos of my cats gets 100 hits, I feel famous. He has 8 million subscribers. When Tyler was an undergrad here at MSU, he interned with Career Services, and this is one of the pieces he produced.
Here's the thing. You're gonna make mistakes. There's no doubt about it. My parents tell me that I was a mistake. But that doesn't stop me. If they were to consider me a bad mistake, that would be their downfall. Instead, by seeing how you've made excellent mistakes in the past, you will be able to see how they didn't trip you up, but instead, they led you to where you are now. When you know that you only have the ability to make excellent mistakes, there is nothing to be afraid of. So get your feet wet. Knowing that you only make excellent mistakes throws away any inhibitions you might have. So don't be afraid of messing up, because any mistake is just a learning opportunity. And who knows? At some point, you might stop making excellent mistakes and start achieving excellent success.
Barrier 3, having a bad attitude or being around people with really bad attitudes. If you remember from week 8, Walt Disney's creative approach involved having a dreamer, a realist, and a spoiler in the room. Having a bad attitude or approaching a problem with a negative orientation isn't always a bad thing. But if you approach every issue or idea as a problem and never see the opportunities, you'll stifle your own creativity. Likewise, if you let people with bad attitudes dictate how you approach an opportunity, your creativity will likely be stifled. Barrier 4, not listening, not researching. I've mentioned learning to learn and the importance of research before in class. You will research your entire life. You'll have to orient yourself toward listening, learning, and researching. If you own a company that provides products to a specific audience, you can't sit in a room and imagine what that audience might need. Think back to the Swiffer example from earlier in class, where the product development team went out and observed people cleaning in their homes. Without doing that research, the Swiffer never would have been invented. Barrier 5, getting stuck on one way to address an issue. I'm sure you've all heard the expression, if all you have is a hammer, everything looks like a nail. If you can only imagine one potential approach to any question, issue, or situation, you're not going to get far and you're not going to be creatively engaged. Related to barrier 5 is barrier 6, not seeing things from multiple points of view. If you only see the world through your own perspective and viewpoint, you'll miss a lot of what's going on around you and limit yourself creatively. If you remember, one of MSU's undergraduate learning goals is that MSU grads engage in integrated reasoning. One way to think about that is we don't just want you graduating seeing the world only as a supply chain professional, or only as a nurse, or only as an advertiser, or just as a philosopher. We want you to be able to see the world from multiple perspectives. Barrier 7 is seeing the forest or the trees. I would argue you have to focus on both the big picture and the small details, and you'll likely need some tools to help you do so. A to-do list where you break down big tasks into small activities, or a project management tool to help you hold on to multiple ongoing tasks are crucial tools. It's hard to be creative unless you have your hands around the moving parts of a big project. Barrier 8 is lack of creative inspiration, and there are places that suck the energy out of people and kill ideas. Some of you identify places that stifle creativity for Creativity Quest too. Likewise, there are also places that are too stimulating, where there's too much going on to be able to concentrate on a specific issue, question, or opportunity. Next week, week 10, we'll be talking about creativity and remix, and we'll start work on Creativity Quest 3. Then week 11, we'll be reading about and talking a lot more about creative context. For now, recognize whether your environment is limiting or distracting from your creative capabilities. I want to draw from this week's readings to offer some suggestions the authors have about breaking barriers to creativity. In one of this week's readings, Tom Kelly is going to talk about cultivating innovation, and in the piece we'll read, he introduces 10 personas that can, ideally, squash the devil's advocate, which he argues is a tired concept that only fosters negativity. Each of the 10 personas that he describes can be adopted to help break through barriers to creativity. Hugh McLeod argues in the piece we'll read for this week, Ignore Everybody. He argues that good ideas alter the power balance in relationships, and this is the primary reason why good ideas are initially shot down. People often crave stability and are pretty comfortable and actually fight to protect the status quo, so ignore them. Two of our creativity sparks this week come from Poke the Box by Seth Godin. The key argument in the book is that you should create your own path and draw your own map. Stop waiting for someone else to give you directions. If you're stuck because you're waiting to be told what to do, and that's your primary barrier to creativity, don't wait for someone else to point you in the right direction. And because white guys aren't the only people who have good ideas about creative inspiration and breaking barriers to creativity, I want to offer just two more. Stephanie Rond is a visual artist who primarily works in graffiti. She's an artist and an entrepreneur who owns the S. Gallery in Columbus, Ohio. Her work focuses on what she calls productive disruption. Disruption of gender norms, for instance, given that graffiti is typically seen as a male-dominated art form. Her approach to work, which I think we can draw from as a way of breaking barriers to creativity, is to intervene. Interventions are ways to think about changing everyday experience. So in her artwork, for instance, she wants to change the way people see walls and experience neighborhoods. So think about ways in which you can orient toward intervention. Watch people, see what they struggle with, listen to what they complain about, and think about what an intervention might be and what impact it might have. Shonda Rhimes created Scandal, How to Get Away with Murder, and Grey's Anatomy. She's a TV writer, and her advice for creative barriers is know how to incubate your ideas, have a process, and know when to unleash your ideas into the world. Don't hold on to them too long or too closely, or you'll miss your moment. But be really strategic and careful in how, when, where, and why you share your ideas. A quote related to this that I absolutely love is when Rhimes suggested that dreamers often end up living in the basement of relatives. Think, imagine, strategize, and act. We have two readings for this week, and I've hinted at both of them in the discussion that you just saw. The first reading is by Tom Kelly from his book, The 10 Faces of Innovation. In the book, Kelly draws from IDEO strategies for driving creativity and innovation within organizations. We're going to read just the introduction chapter to the book, where Kelly describes 10 types of innovators. The second reading consists of pieces from Hugh McLeod's book, Ignore Everybody. I have one creativity case. Early in class, we watched a Did You Know video that explored the changing media and information landscape. This week, we're going to watch a video that argues that organizations have to change to thrive in today's information and innovation landscape. This, to me, connects to breaking creative barriers. The video demonstrates what happens if you get too stuck in your way and can't think about creative, innovative approaches and adapt with culture and technology. We have 2 creativity sparks, and I mentioned them earlier. One first is a summary of Poking the Box by Seth Godin, and the next is a workbook for poking the box. It's full of prompts, questions, and ideas. The second creativity spark is by Veer. Veer was an indie stock photography company which just recently got bought out by the stock photo giant iStock. Veer used to produce summer activity books for creatives every summer, and this is one of them. As you read and explore for this week, week 9, think about barriers to creativity you've experienced, and also think about barrier busting ideas, activities, spaces, or places.